According to his promoter, Nissa Sawalin, Kubrat Pulev has accepted the IBF final eliminator against Dillian Whyte. Now, I'm not quite sure what to make of the situation yet, and I'll explain my reasoning. And by the way, you guys can go read this article for yourselves. I'm not going to go through it and read out exactly what Nissa Sawalin has said, but needless to say, he's talking about he believes Pulev has got the beating of Dillian Whyte. Pulev is not Lucas Brown or Helenius. He's on a different level, etc., etc. These are the things that Nissa Sawalin has been saying. Now, here's my take on it. Kubrat Pulev has shown very little interest in facing Anthony Joshua. Very, very little interest. He has had several opportunities to face Joshua in the ring. He was previously the IBF mandatory challenger. He pulled out with an injury, which to me is a little suspect because of the fact that prior to pulling out and prior to signing for the Joshua fight, when he was IBF mandatory, he was talking about how he hadn't had enough time to prepare. He was on his Facebook page saying, you know, he don't really want to take the fight. Him and Sawalin seem to be at loggerheads. Sawalin seemed to want to push him into the fight, whereas Pulev said he wasn't really happy about it. He didn't have enough time to prepare. And again, previous to that, he'd been offered the Joshua fight a few times by Eddie Hearn and didn't seem very keen. So here we have Pulev apparently accepting an IBF eliminator against Dillian Whyte, the winner of which will become mandatory for Joshua. Well, Pulev's already been in that situation and he didn't want it. Why should we believe he wants it now? Maybe he'll become mandatory again and go a different route. I don't know. Is that what he's going to do? There was talk of Kubrat Pulev taking on Dominic Breazeale, but Dominic Breazeale pulled out and people believe he's going to fight, Breazeale's going to fight Wilder. So, you know, I don't know what's going on with Pulev in this IBF situation. I don't know what he's hoping to achieve out of it. Was he waiting to see some sign of weakness from Anthony Joshua maybe? Maybe he looked at the Parker fight and thought, you know what, he's not that dangerous. He's not that much of a force of nature. Maybe I can go in there and fight this guy. You know, I don't know what Kubrat Pulev is really doing with regards to Joshua. And that's why I don't know, man. Is it Kubrat Pulev accepting the IBF eliminator against Whyte, or is it once again his promoter seemingly pushing him into the fight? Pressuring him. Maybe there's legal action behind the scenes. I don't know. As far as Pulev fighting Whyte, forget about who becomes mandatory for Joshua. Just as a fight, Pulev versus Whyte, I've got no doubt that Kubrat Pulev is not afraid of facing Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte struggled with Derek Chisora, and I think Kubrat Pulev looks at that and thinks, well, I dealt with Chisora pretty easily. Dillian Whyte struggled with him. He's on the same kind of level as Chisora. I'll beat Dillian Whyte, no problem. I think this is how Kubrat Pulev sees Dillian Whyte. I don't think Kubrat Pulev is at all intimidated or perturbed by fighting Whyte. But as I say, it's just the position that beating Dillian Whyte may put him in. I'm not really sure what's going on there. But you guys let me know what you think in the comment section below. Kubrat Pulev versus Dillian Whyte. Will Kubrat Pulev actually take the fight? Is he being coerced by his promoter into taking it? Again, I'm sure he has no issue taking on Whyte per se, but becoming mandatory for Joshua again? Does he really want that? Maybe he's waiting for somebody to beat Joshua. I don't know. I mean, when will the IBF call the mandatory? Just because the winner of a potential Whyte Pulev fight will become mandatory, it don't mean they'll get called mandatory. It don't mean they'll get their shot anytime soon necessarily. You know, maybe not even this year. So, I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And if Pulev versus Whyte does go ahead, and they're talking about it going ahead in summer, I think, somewhere in June, yeah. They're talking about June, and Whyte has been talking about fighting in June anyway. If it goes ahead, who would you guys be picking? I think it's a very competitive fight. I think it's a fight either man could win. I would slightly favor Kubrat Pulev in it. Pulev is not as fresh as Dillian Whyte. He hasn't been as active as Dillian Whyte. You have to take that into account. So maybe I'm thinking about the Pulev of a couple of years ago, and really he's not as good as that anymore. Perhaps I'm making that mistake, but I would be slightly edging Kubrat Pulev over Dillian Whyte. I think he's a better long-range boxer. I think he has better footwork than Dillian Whyte. He's definitely more one-dimensional than Dillian Whyte, I can say that. Dillian Whyte has got far more facets to his game. Dillian Whyte can fight on the inside. Dillian Whyte is a two-handed fighter. He's got a left hook and a right hand. I think he hits a bit harder than Kubrat Pulev. Pulev is essentially a one-handed fighter. He does have a right hand, but it's not a particularly good one. Pulev pretty much lives off his jab. His jab is his bread and butter. He's got a very, very strong jab. He's the only person who has managed to hurt Vladimir Klitschko with a jab. Yeah, he hit Klitschko with a very solid left jab in the first round, which buckled Klitschko's knees. You know, he's got a very, very solid jab, Kubrat Pulev. That's his bread and butter. An unusual kind of style, but he's effective at long range. If Dillian Whyte is to beat a Kubrat Pulev, I don't think he can do it at long range. I think he's going to have to close Pulev down, work the body, and he's going to have to be wary of Pulev's holding, because ever since the Klitschko loss, Kubrat Pulev has employed a different trainer, and that trainer has got Pulev doing a hell of a lot of holding. He did a hell of a lot of holding against Derek Chisora, and, you know, other fights that he's had since losing to Klitschko. He's been doing a hell of a lot of clinching, so Whyte's going to have to look out for that. But again, it's a fight Dillian Whyte can win. I'm definitely not counting him out. But I would just slightly favor Kubrat Pulev, you know, based upon what he's done in the past. Can Dillian Whyte apply effective pressure and do enough? Another thing as well is it depends on where this fight is going to be. If the fight takes place in the UK, maybe I'll change my mind and actually pick Dillian Whyte, because you might get a situation where the referee is giving Kubrat Pulev warnings for holding, and where Dillian Whyte can, you know, more easily apply pressure and whatnot, because I don't see Kubrat Pulev as someone who's going to be hurting Dillian Whyte, to be honest with you. You know, Kubrat Pulev isn't that kind of puncher. So yeah, I think that if it's in the UK, I might actually favor Dillian Whyte to win. But if the fight takes place in Germany or, you know, Bulgaria, then I'd have to slightly favor Kubrat Pulev. Either way, I think it's a competitive fight. Let me know what you guys think of it in the comment section below. It's Hatman, I'm out.